Hey guys, it's DIY Alex and I am back with another tutorial. Sorry for the slight delay there. I was trying to fight with my microphone and then I finally just gave up. So let me know if you can hear me okay and see me okay, since I'm not wearing the microphones that I was able to do our last live, which is disappointing. Even for me, sometimes technology does not work the way that I want it to. So let me know that you can hear me and everything is well, and then we will dive right in to this HTV tutorial. Hi guys. Thanks for saying hello in the chat. If you're watching this live, make sure that you are signed into YouTube so that you can chat with us. Hi Dawn, hi Dee, and Renee, Roseanne. Hi Betty, hi Mom. Hi Ashley, thanks for joining us. Good. I know, and everybody, everybody uses these little microphones. All the cool content creators use these. They're pretty expensive. They're not like cheap little microphones, but I cannot get the two of them to pair, and I don't know why. So if you are a creator or you use these microphones, let me know. They're the Rode Wireless Me mics. Hi, Tammy. Hey, Barbara. Hey, Becky. Welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. You guys, woo-wee. It has been a day. But we made it. Hi, Phil. Hi, Danielle. Welcome. Oh, I forgot my drinks. Let me grab those. Goodness. It's good to be back. I'm so glad that we are able to go live again this week. As far as a Father's Day craft goes, it would have been better to do this last week, but I was under the weather, let's say, and now my poor little toddler has the same thing that I had. So it has been a day, a week. It's been crazy. Hi, Catherine. Great, Roseanne. I'm glad you're back. Okay, well, I was hoping to pre-record the design space portion of this tutorial, but that didn't happen because life. Hi, Irma. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. So we're going to do it all in real time. I did already pick my design and all that kind of stuff. And I linked some options for you guys in the description of this video, just because I have found Father's Day designs to be kind of difficult. And this is not a reflection of any one person, but I tend to find some of the designs kind of cheesy overall. And so I always have a hard time finding cool stuff that I want to make my husband or my dad or my father-in-law. So it's a little bit of a struggle. So I linked some options that I actually liked in the description of this video, and that I'm using the first one, the file bundle. There's only pretty much one design out of there I probably would actually use, and that's one we're going to use today. So I'm going to show you the whole thing start to finish in Design Space. Super easy. Tammy says she's finished making cards last night for Father's Day. Well, good for you, Tammy. You guys, I am so excited about what I am doing for Father's Day this year for my husband, but obviously I can't tell you what that is. I don't think he's probably going to watch this. I don't think he usually watches my videos, but just in case, I don't want anything getting back to him, so I have to keep it a secret until after Father's Day. But honestly, it's a bummer because every year I always try to give, my husband or the dads in my family my best ideas, but that means that I can't share it with you guys because they're actual gifts. So that part's a bummer because I want to tell you all the things, but I also don't want to spoil the surprise, So I will tell you more about it after Father's Day. Just remind me because it's really cool. It's really cool. So I'm excited. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive on into this. So we are approaching this kind of mainly as an HTV T-shirt tutorial, but also with a Father's Day hint to it, I guess you could say. So this doesn't have to be a tutorial that you only follow for Father's Day, but it is an option if you need an easy gift for your dad. I feel like all of the basics that we make with our Cricut are always good options for dad, like hats, t-shirts, mugs, Probably not tote bags. I don't know about you guys, but my dad and my husband would not use a tote bag. But you know, kind of the basic things we normally make are great options for gifts for Father's Day. So Cricut makes that really, really easy. I do think it's important though to find a good design. So that's why I linked some of my favorites down below for you. And this file bundle that I'm using in particular, I'll show it to you when we get there. But what I like about it is it's kind of a sublimation bundle, but it also has SVG versions of all of the designs. So you can cut them out of, having an SVG version means it's easier to cut out of like vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, but you can also use it for sublimation if you would rather make a sublimation gift for Father's Day. And before we dive into, if you're looking for other options for Father's Day, I've linked a couple of the other crafts I've made and posted over the years for Father's Day in the comments, in the description box of this live. I think there's an HTV apron for the grill tutorial. And then last year I did sublimation socks for Father's Day, which was a lot of fun. So all kinds of options for you down in that description box if you want to find something. Oh, and other things that have nothing to do with this tutorial, but I wanted to make sure that I tell you guys because this is pretty unusual. So I was looking for links to gather my supplies like I always do while I was getting ready for this live, and you guys, the original Cricut Maker, which is what I'm going to be using in the tutorial today, is on sale on Amazon for $250. That is an amazing price for the Cricut Maker. And that it may have been that way for a little while since the original Cricut Maker is now a couple of models behind. But I use my original Maker still all the time. It still works completely fine. So if you've been thinking about upgrading to a Cricut Maker, definitely check out the original Maker that I have linked in the description of this video. And also, I'm going to be using the Cricut Easy Press today to press our heat transfer vinyl. So if you wanted a Cricut Easy Press, the 9x9 Cricut Easy Press is on sale for like $79, which is an insane price for the Cricut Easy Press. So this is not any particular kind of promotion that I'm aware of, but if you are looking to upgrade to some of those Cricut materials, or maybe you don't have those things and you've wanted to add them to your collection, those are really, really good prices. So I definitely recommend you jump on that if you're interested. Oh, bummer, Irma, we'll miss you. Hopefully you can join us if your internet allows. Tammy says, wow, so good. Maybe I'm not the only one, but when I looked up those prices, I was like, dang, those are really good. So just so you know, in case you are looking to upgrade or add to your collection, or if you're watching this tutorial because you're new to Cricut, those are really, really good prices. This all started because I was looking for a link to the Cricut Maker 3, because that's typically what I use when I work with my Cricut at this point. The Cricut Maker 3 is the newest machine that I have, so that's usually what I use. But because they just put out the Cricut Maker 4, it's really, really hard to find links to the Cricut Maker 3 because they want you to buy the new one. So when I was searching through all those links, I couldn't find a link to the Maker 3, but I found one to the original Maker, and I was like, holy cow, yeah, we are jumping on this. So anyway, all those good prices, all those good things are linked in the description of this video if you are interested. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Trish. Welcome. Hi, Barbara. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. Okay, so what we're gonna do here in just a moment is we're gonna switch over to Design Space. I'm gonna show you step by step how I'm uploading this design, how I'm gonna size it and add it to my canvas, do all those things, use our settings, all the things. So let's go ahead and switch over to the screen, but give me just 1 second, because right now you can see the YouTube comments, which would not help us in Design Space very much. Okay, here we go. So now that we're here in Cricut Design Space, this is what it looks like when you open up Design Space on your desktop. So I'm gonna go into the upper right-hand corner and click the New Project Plus button. But now it's going to give you some options for different types of gifts. I guess maybe those are different types of projects, I should say. And I guess maybe those are the most popular. I always, by default, go to blank canvas, but it is neat that they have some preloaded templates for you. And that's going to bring us to our regular canvas view. You guys, I just realized the whole time that my coaster has been sticking to my drink. Okay, let me switch over so I can see your comments here on my iPad. Good, good. Okay. Hi, Melissa. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope I said your name correctly. Melissa Hudgens. I'm so glad that you're here. It's always fun to join us live, and this is a great place to ask questions. So if you have questions about what we're doing or about this project, please go ahead and drop them in the comments because I love answering your questions live. And sometimes, because I've been doing this for a long time, I will skim over details that I think are really self-explanatory, but they may not be. So please feel free to ask your questions. Absolutely no judgment from us, okay? All right, so the first thing we need to do is change our canvas to the machine that we are working with. So I'm gonna go to the drop down here that says Cricut Joy, and I'm gonna change it over to just the Cricut Maker. And in case you're new here, I was just talking about a sale on the actual Cricut Maker. There is no such thing as a Cricut Maker 2. So they skip straight from the original Cricut Maker up to the Cricut Maker 3, and then the Cricut Maker 4 is the newest model. So in case that's confusing for you, hopefully that helps. But I'm using my original Cricut Maker, so that's what I want to change my canvas over to. That way all the projects and images and all the things I look up are compatible with the machine that I am using. So it's important to do that first and foremost. So I'm going to be uploading a design onto my canvas. I'm not going to be using a Cricut image in this case. So what I'm going to do to do that is I'm going to scroll all the way down here on the left side. This whole area is called the edit bar. The edit, or excuse me, is that right? No, you guys, I'm telling you the wrong name. This is the design panel. And the design panel is always useful when we are going to be adding new things to our canvas. So if you are trying to add something new that was not here before, you're always going to go over to this design panel on your left-hand side, and you should find all different kinds of tabs for whatever you're looking for. And typically the upload option is at the very bottom. So depending on the size of your screen and like what you're using design space on, you may have to scroll down, but upload is always at the bottom. So that's where we're going to start, and then we're going to click on upload image, and this is where we're going to go to the image on our computer. So I always like to click browse. I don't have a lot of luck with dragging and dropping my files. I prefer to go to browse and find the location on my computer. Now I like to keep a separate hard drive for all of my craft stuff, and as well as because this is my business, I don't like to keep a lot of that stuff on my computer because that really slows your computer down. So I have an external hard drive that I plug in, and that is where all of my files live. So I just will go down to my craft files file. I have a bunch of stuff in here. And so I will take you through to my SVG files folder. And then in my SVG files folder, the way that, yes, Kristen, it does have a name. I'm assuming you're talking about the design panel. Yes, that is what Cricut has officially named those parts. They don't usually tell you that kind of stuff unless you have worked with Cricut like I have. And so it does actually have a name. And it would be so much easier, I think, if they taught it that way. But they don't tend to tell us that kind of stuff. So anyway, we'll get back to all that stuff. But in my craft files, the way that I like to organize my files, especially if you are new, it's good to start a system from the beginning. And what I like to do is I like to put the first couple of letters tells me where the file came from. So CF is Creative Fabrica. And if you scroll down below all of that, I have a lot of stuff that's from DB, Design Bundles. And below that, it's going to say Etsy, because I just think it's easier if I know where everything came from. So I am going to find the file I already have saved. That was, I saved it as like CF Father's Bundle, I think. Let me look here. Maybe I'm missing it. Or did I call it Dad? I just did it a little while ago. And now I can't remember what I called it. Let's see. Maybe I called it Dad. So I need to go up to D. No? Nope. Okay. Well, If you can't remember what you called it, nothing's going to help you with that. The only thing that I can think to do, unless I have it somewhere weird. Okay, well, let's just start from the beginning, even a little further back in case you're new, and I can resave it so that I don't actually forget. So yeah, actually, I'll just show you that. Hold on just a second. Let me get you over to Creative Fabrica. So Creative Fabrica is where I downloaded this design from. So I looked through their website and found the bundles that I liked, right? So this is the one I want. And the first thing we're going to do is click on download. So that gets us from the file from the website to our computer. Now I did not have to pay for this because I do pay for a subscription to Creative Fabrica. I have their all access membership, so I pay one time and I can download as much as I want from this website. So if you're new, that might not be something that you're familiar with, but I think the Creative Fabrica membership is a great value because I use it a bunch. So then once I click on download, then it's gonna pop straight into my downloads folder. So we'll go ahead and open that folder up. And these are all of the designs. But one thing that is important to note, it might be confusing for you if you've not worked with a Cricut for a long time, is that all of the files that you download are going to be zipped. And I know it's really tiny, but up here in this upper left-hand corner, I can see that my folder has a little zipper through it. If we go into my downloads here, you can see that a little bit better. So in order to access these files, we need to right-click, and then we need to click on extract all. This is how we unzip the file. So then it's gonna ask us where we want to unzip the files to. So that is where I like to click on browse, and in my, okay, see, it is here. Was I just missing it the whole time, guys? I do already have it saved in my SVGs folder, but that's okay. We'll save it again just to show you guys. So in my SVG files folder, I like to always create a new folder. So while I'm navigated to the correct place, I right click and I click on new and then new folder. And I'm gonna name it CF because it's from Creative Fabrica. And then I'm gonna call it Father's Bundle. I know there's no apostrophe there. Grammar police don't come for me. It's just my own file, so I think that's allowed. You know, maybe it's because I forgot a dash. I bet that's what it is. All the others, I think I do CF dash Father's Day. I bet that's why. Okay, either way, that's okay. We're gonna click on that folder. So that's the brand new folder I just created. And I'm gonna select this folder, and that is where everything is going to go once I click extract. So it's opening like 128 different files. Okay, Barbara did see it. So I'm just, you guys, I'm sorry. I've been up with my sick toddler a lot the last couple of nights, so I'm a little tired. And then you see all of the folders open. And so I'm gonna be using this design, the Father 6 right here. And what I liked about this, this file, I like to change my view on my computer over to like actually viewing the files this way instead of a list. I just think that's a little bit easier. But what I liked about it is it's got like kind of a colored, like an SVG, or excuse me, like a sublimation type file, where if I was gonna do a sublimation project, I would probably pick this one. But it also has PNG versions as well as SVG versions. If you are not new, or if you are new to working with Cricut, your SVG file is going to be your best type of file to use in Cricut Design Space. And oftentimes, if you have a Windows computer, it's going to have like this weird Microsoft Edge icon as the picture, but that is the best file type to use with Cricut Design Space. So now we know we have this CF Father's Bundle. So now we're gonna go back into Design Space. I'm back in my SVG files folder, and here we are. That's not even the right one. That's the original one that I created a little while ago, but that's okay. So we go back into our folder, we select what we want to use, and I'm gonna be using, like I said, the it doesn't matter whether we use black or white, but I'm going to be using the one that says the Microsoft Edge HTML document. That is an SVG type file. So I'm going to click on it. You can either double click it or click on open. And then that is going to bring us into Design Space to see the preview. So everything looks good. We're going to click on Continue. Because this is an SVG type file, we don't really need to do any type of cleanup to the image itself, but we can change the image name. And I'm going to change this to Dad, because if I am going back in here at another time, I'm probably not going to search Father's Day. I might just search Dad. So I want to make sure it's easy to find. So I'll put Dad checkered, and I'll probably remember what that means when I'm looking for it. So we've changed our image name. You can add tags if you want to help yourself search. You can also add your image to a collection if you prefer to do that. Then I'm going to click on Upload. Okay, so this is interesting. It looks like Cricut is showing me similar images to what they have in their files. So that's a feature that I haven't come across yet. Let me know if you guys have noticed that, because I did not pull that up. All I did was upload my image. So now I have my image here, and I need to size it for my project. And I am making a size medium t-shirt. Generally, when I am working with like medium, large, and extra large t-shirts for adults, I like to have my design be about 10 inches wide. So this 11.18 here is a little bit long. On my computer screen, you have to click on more in order to see the size. That might depend. You might or might not have to do that depending on the size of your computer screen. So just keep that in mind if that's confusing for you. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 10 for the width exactly, and then click on enter, and it will automatically resize. You can also use the corner handles here if you want to, make things larger and smaller. But I just prefer to make it precise because it saves me a little bit of time. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this black, even though I'm not going to be using black HTV. Because it's all one color, I don't really need to worry about the color. I can kind of decide last minute. Now, if I had a multicolor design, I would want to go next to operation and click on this color box and change it to the color that I'm going to be using, because that way I know what color of heat transfer vinyl to put on each mat. But since it's all one color anyway, it doesn't really matter. So we'll leave it the way that it is. We've got the correct machine selected, so we'll go ahead and click on the green. Actually, we're going to save it first, and then we'll click on the green make button. So I'm going to call this just Dad T-shirt. And I have lots of collections. I do like to sometimes save them like organized, so I'll put this under gifts and click on save. Yeah, you guys have noticed that feature too, where it pops out and shows you similar images. And that's fine. It's just that if I've already gone through to upload the image, I'm probably not going to change it for a Cricut file. I do personally pay for Cricut Access, so that is something to note. You certainly do not have to pay for Cricut Access in order to use it. And if you're new, then I do recommend doing the free trial that comes with getting a new Cricut machine, and you just decide if you think it makes sense for you. I do often use Cricut projects and images, but when I do tutorials for you guys, I tend to use external images in case you don't pay for Cricut Access, because I don't want you to not be able to use my, the design I'm using or make what I'm making just because you don't pay for Cricut Access. So that's a lot of times why I don't use Cricut stuff in tutorials for you guys. But as a crafter myself, I do use it pretty often just because it's quick and easy. But anyway, so now that our project is saved, I'm going to go ahead and click on the green Make It button in the upper right-hand corner. That's going to take us to our next step. So this is called the prepare screen, and this is going to give us a preview of what our design should look like. And everything looks good, except that because I'm using heat transfer vinyl, I need to be sure to check the mirror button. And I'll explain that when we get over to the Cricut machine, why that is. But it is important to note that almost any time that you're working with HTV, there are very few exceptions. You do need to make sure that mirror is turned on. Okay. And if you're new in Design Space and you don't know this handy dandy little trick, if you're ever not sure what the next step is, just follow the trail of green buttons. There's only going to be one green button at a time on your screen in Design Space, and that is intentionally designed to lead you through the project. So if you're ever not sure what's next, just follow the little green buttons and it will get you through to the end of the project. So our next green button says continue in the bottom right corner, and that's what we're going to click. Yeah, Tammy says she uses Access a lot for convenience too. I do too. Like when I'm making personal projects, I use it all the time, especially for like Cricut cards and stuff like that on my Cricut Joy. It's just so much faster for me to search through Cricut rather than having to find an external design. But you know, I get that you may not want to keep a bunch of subscriptions. I generally try to keep my subscriptions personally pretty low. So I totally get that. So it's just kind of a personal thing. People feel really strongly about it some type of way. But I just think you need to do whatever's best for you. Whatever you like. Okay. So the next thing that we are going to choose is our cut setting. Now the step here says set base material. I think that that is confusing, and I prefer to call it the cut setting because that's what it is. But I want you to keep in mind that the names of all of the materials are Cricut brand materials. So if you're like me and you're not using a Cricut brand material, you still need to choose a base material or cut setting that's going to work closely with your material, but it might be confusing for you if you're new. So I want to show you one of my favorite resources. Give me just a hot second here. I'm going to show you one of my favorite resources if you are new to working with heat transfer vinyl. This makes it so much easier if you are using products that 143 Vinyl carries. So 143 Vinyl is one of my favorite vinyl companies. Before I was working for myself and working in DIY Alex full time, I used to work for 143 Vinyl, so they have a very special place in my heart. But if you go to the learning section of their website, they have a document that, not gonna lie, I have a special I have great affection for because I started this document when I worked there many, many years ago, but it is called the Cutter Settings document. And it is going to tell you what the product that you're working with is. And once you find that, it'll tell you what Cricut cut setting you need. It also has the silhouette cut setting and the brother scan and cut setting. So that covers most of the major machines. Then it'll tell you the pressing time and temperature if it's heat transfer vinyl, as well as the pressure level and what temperature to peel the material. So if you're new, this is super helpful. You can go to 143vinyl.com/learn, and that's where you can download the Cutter Settings document. I forgot to link it in the description of this video, but I can go back and add that for you because this is awesome to have if you're new. You don't have to print it necessarily. You can just keep it on your computer, but I do like to print it and staple it for easy access. So just an option for you. It's totally free to download and everything, but this is a great option if you're using products that are not Cricut products and you're new to working with heat transfer vinyl. This can save you a lot of headache and answer a lot of questions. So we are going to be using one of my favorite kinds of heat transfer vinyl, which is called Starcraft Softflex. And for Starcraft Softflex, we are going to be using the Everyday Iron-On cut setting, which I have bookmarked here as some of my favorites. If you don't have, if the options that you, sorry guys, brain. If the cut setting that you're looking for does not show up in your bookmarked options, or it doesn't show up under popular, then you can click on Browse All Materials, this green link right here. And that's where you're going to be able to see every single thing that your machine that you have the Cricut Design Space set to can cut. And if you want to add something to your bookmarks, you can hover over this little flag right here on the right side, and that is going to add it to your bookmarked materials. Okay? So just in case you are not familiar with Design Space or you're new to this. But like I said, I'm going to be using the Everyday Iron-On setting. It also gives you a little reminder, make sure mirror is turned on and the iron-on material is face or shiny side down, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. We know that's true because I can see the mirror setting is green right here. That means it is turned on. So next it's going to tell us to load our tools and materials, and that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to send you to the overhead camera and we can talk about what that's going to look like. But in the meantime, I am going to go back to your comments here so I can see what you guys are saying. Awesome. Ooh, Tammy says that in Cricut Access, she sizes designs for t-shirts on the clothing feature. I don't even know that I've explored that, Tammy, because I've been sizing my own designs for so long that I don't think that I have really second guessed it, but that's awesome. What a cool feature. All right. So, when we work with heat transfer vinyl, we are generally going to be using a light green or standard grip cutting mat. I apologize that mine is dirty. I'm a regular crafter just like you, and my mats get really gross. And this one needs to be cleaned, but it's still nice and sticky. I think this might have been from a print then cut actually, because it's like ink that's smeared on my mat. But either way, it comes with a oh gosh, guys, the words are leaving me. A cover sheet to keep dust and debris off of your mat. So always hang on to that because it'll get even dirtier if you don't have something over top of it. But you want to remove that to reveal the sticky side so that you can use the mat to hold the materials in place for your Cricut. There are some materials that you can use without a mat. That's always a really common beginner question, but it has to be a Cricut Maker 3 or 4 in order to be compatible with those materials. And they are only Cricut brand. They are called Smart Materials, and they don't require a mat. But everything else does require a mat, so you'll definitely want to keep some cutting mats. Oh yeah, Tammy. Okay, so the template feature has been in Cricut Design Space for like ever. It's an original feature that they've had for a really, really long time. But that is true that it's very useful, especially if you don't have the blank right in front of you. Templates are a great, great option. All right, so let me show you my project and you guys can help me decide what color material to be using. I'm going to be using this like Kelly green, I guess maybe not quite a Kelly green, but kind of a bright green Gildan Softstyle t-shirt. That's what I'm going to be pressing on today. And the colors of Soft Flex that I picked for this are either white or navy. I wasn't sure which one I liked better. So remember, it has that checkered dad design. So will you guys vote in the comments and tell me which one you think I should use? Because I'm honestly really torn. White is probably like my default, what I would go towards first, but I kind of like the idea of doing something different and using navy. So tell me, do you think I should use white HTV or navy HTV for this design? Let me know. I'll wait till I see a couple of your votes. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, so I apologize if it takes me a minute to see your comments. Okay, so you guys are saying dark? Okay, yeah, totally. Let's do it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and use the navy color. Something I did not share before is that I love keeping these white snap bracelets. You can buy these in bulk from Amazon. If you guys are 90s kids, you know how these work. You slap them around your wrist and they become a bracelet. But you can buy them in plain white and they are awesome for wrapping around your heat transfer vinyl rolls when you don't want a bunch of unruly pieces to be sticking out and making a mess. Slap bracelets are awesome for organizing your heat transfer vinyl. So there's like your little beginner tip of the day, in addition to all these other tips. So this, I don't think is quite going to be enough, but you know what? I might check my Design Space screen and see how tall my design is, because this section of my HTV might be perfect. Let me check and see actually. Barbara said, what is the document called with the information settings on 143 vinyl? In fact, Barbara, I still have it open. So I will go ahead and link it here in the chat for now. It's called the Cutter Settings document. But let me show you, or let me paste it in here for you. So that way you have it. There you go. But I'll link it in the description too, so that if you're not watching live, it's easier to find. Okay, so let me jump back into Design Space real quick. I'm just gonna see how tall my design is because I can't remember. Okay, so I need at least 6 inches of height on my HTV. So hold on. We'll have to measure it and see if it's gonna be tall enough. You're welcome, Barbara, no problem. I was gonna link it for you guys anyway, so that's easy to do. Okay, so I can either measure my HTV by laying it out on my cutting mat, or I like to use a self-healing mat underneath my projects just because it keeps me from like tearing up my table all the time. And I know you guys are a little cut off, so you can't see. You can't see exactly, but my HTV is like exactly 6 inches high. So that's awesome. We're gonna take a shot and we're gonna try and use this. And if I mess it up, I can always use my full sheet. But I love to try and use my scraps first whenever possible. So remember how we turned mirror on our heat transfer vinyl when we were cutting it? The reason for that is because HTV is actually comprised of a couple different parts. The shiny side, which is the carrier sheet in this type of HTV, it's not always shiny, so that can be a little bit of a tricky saying. But in most types of HTV, it is the shiny part on the front. There's actually a clear carrier sheet on the front of this, and the heat transfer vinyl is actually on the back. So we put the shiny side down because now that our design is mirrored, we're gonna cut the design into the back of the heat transfer vinyl, and then we're gonna weed away the excess areas that we don't wanna transfer to our design. And then we have this clear sticky cover sheet that helps us transfer to the design over to our blank without messing up the design or distorting it. So that is why you'll see we mirror things and we say shiny side down, but really what that means is carrier sheet side down, so that if you're using a type of heat transfer vinyl that does not have a shiny carrier sheet, you're still gonna put that carrier sheet down for the most part. There are some very rare exceptions to that, such as sometimes working with pattern vinyl and a couple other things like that, but generally that's a good rule to follow. So because I have such an exact amount here, I am gonna try and be a little bit neater than I normally would when I'm pressing my HTV down onto my mat. Something else to note about your Cricut is that it is going to put an automatic 1/4 inch border around the entire mat. And the reason for that is because they don't want you to accidentally cut. They don't want you to miss your mark by just a little bit. So it's gonna add an automatic red line just a 1/4 inch in all the way around your mat. Even though it's 12 inches by 12 inches, because of that extra border, you can really only cut like 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches because you're going in a 1/4 inch on each side, if that makes any sense. So I think that even though we need 6 inches, I really think this is gonna be fine. So we're gonna hope this is the right size. So now we're gonna open up my Cricut Maker. It does have it makes a little noise with the lid. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So that part's a little bit goofy because I've used my Cricut Maker for a long time, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it other than that. So I still use my Maker a lot. So once I have my HTV stuck to my mat, you'll see that the load arrow button is flashing. That's asking me to load my mat into my machine. So I am going to give it a little bit of pressure from the bottom with my hand in order to feed it into the machine, and then I'll click on the arrow, and that's going to bring it on in. Then the C button will flash, and I'll go ahead and press that to begin cutting. Now, the Cricut Maker series, the original Maker, does not actually measure your material the way that some of the newer machines do. Or well, maybe that is it, measuring my material. It didn't used to do that, but Design Space has updated a little bit, and so now it acts a little bit more like the Maker 3 and Maker 4. So this is a little bit of an intricate design, not too bad, but it might take us a few minutes to cut. So while we're waiting, let me know what you guys are crafting recently in the comments. Are you making anything for Father's Day or anything else that you're just working on? Something that I have to get started on very soon that I have not started on yet is working on my son's second birthday. He turns 2 in September, and so I need to start on his birthday party decorations, but I have not done any such thing. Not yet. Nope. I'm trying to show you guys my little screen here. There we go. So now you can see me while we're doing lots of cutting. So let me know in the comments what you guys are crafting. I know, Renee said, wow, 2 already. Time flies. I know, Renee. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe it. But honestly, I also can believe it. Because I spend every day with him, and we are definitely starting to feel like a 2-year-old. Lots of big feelings about things. Lots of opinions. But it's also really, really sweet. So far, it's been fairly mild. It's nothing crazy or anything. It's just, you know, him asserting his little independence as he gets there. It's getting down to like the bottom of that HTV. I'm getting nervous, guys. I hope we made it. It'd be a big bummer if I have to recut just for a little bit, but I think we're gonna make it okay. Nikisha says, koozies and keychains for my husband's 60th birthday. That's fun. That's a fun project. I love it. I don't know if I said this already, but Carter's birthday theme is going to be Chugga Chugga Tutu because he doesn't watch a lot of TV. We're pretty selective with our screen time, but his favorite show is Thomas the Train. So instead of doing like an official Thomas theme, we're going to do Chugga Chugga Tutu, which I think is so cute. I found it on Pinterest, so I can't even take credit for that cute theme idea because it wasn't my idea. Okay, so I can't exactly see if we made it or not. Let's go ahead and unload. And then I'm going to shut this lid for now. And actually, I'm going to take my face away, guys, so that you can fully see what I'm doing here. So in order to remove the heat transfer vinyl from the mat, one of my favorite ways to do that with any material is to flip the mat with the sticky side down and actually peel the mat away from the material. It's not as big of a deal with heat transfer vinyl, but with other materials, this can keep the material from like curling up and just like being really difficult to work with. So I always like to peel the mat away from my material. Then I always add the cover sheet back on because even though my mat's already dirty, we don't want to make it even worse. And now we're going to take a look at our design. And we made it with our 6 inches, which is awesome. I love being able to use partial sheets of HTV so that I don't have to use a whole new sheet. That's always awesome. There, it just went a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see it through the carrier sheet or not, but it just goes a little bit below the squares here with a long tail from Dad. So we made it plenty of room to spare, which is awesome. Okay. So I cut off the excess, and now when we're weeding this, we are going to have to flip it over and weed it from the backside. Because remember, this front shiny area is just a carrier sheet. This is not the actual front of the HTV. So we want to actually weed the HTV, which goes in from the back. Thanks, Tammy. I'm glad you think so. I thought so too. When I came across that on Pinterest, I was in love. I was like, absolutely, that's what we're doing. Gail is using her X-Tool S1 40 watt to make business card holders. That's awesome. Our friend Ashley from Chip Builds is a big laser girly, so I'm sure she can relate to your laser projects. I might jump into lasers one day, but I haven't made that leap yet, you guys. I would like to, but I haven't. Okay, so let's talk about weeding. I briefly touched on it earlier, but in case you are new, weeding is basically removing the excess vinyl away from the design that our Cricut has just cut. Because our Cricut went ahead and cut the design into the heat transfer vinyl, but the rest of it is still here too, and we have to get rid of the parts we don't want. So we're going to do this using a weeding tool, and my weeding tool of choice is called a pen. It looks like this. It's like the body of a pen, but the end of it is actually a stainless steel tip needle. You might also see like the dental hook looking tools. Those are fine too. Whatever works best for you is fine. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever's most comfortable. And I find the body of a pen a little more comfortable to hold than a like a dental hook style tool. So the only thing that makes me nervous about designs like this is picking out the wrong pieces. Because this is like a checkered design, I don't want to pull something that's not supposed to be pulled. So what I tend to like to do is I will start in one of the corners and just lift one of the corners. And then if we can get like the outer parts to pull away, that should tell us pretty easily what will stay behind. And if you're really in doubt, one of the best things to do is either to pull up Cricut Design Space on your device, or you can print out a picture of your design, and then that way you can see for sure which areas need to stay and which areas need to be weeded away. So once I got the corner started, I will start by pulling a lot of this away with my fingers. And as you can see, some of these squares are going to stay behind because they're just like part of the design already. And that makes it so much easier. But seems like my HTV is going to rip every step of the way. Probably just because this is such a, there's so many cuts in here with the checkers from the squares. That's why it's ripping. If you are looking for an HTV to be obsessed with, I would highly encourage you to give StarCraft Softflex a try. It is awesome. It definitely, good HTV can make or break your experience, or at least it can make it a lot harder or a lot easier. So I have always had great success with StarCraft Softflex. It applies super easily, which you guys will see here in a couple minutes. It's really great. So we're going to continue pulling away. All of this came up just from peeling the corner up first. And the rest of it I haven't even had to use my tool yet because I've just been using my fingers. So once we have some of the squares pulled away, it becomes a lot more obvious what needs to be pulled and what needs to stay. All right, so I'm going to flip it back over. And, okay, so whenever I'm not sure, I just like to go slowly and carefully. There's no rush, right? Because many times I have been weeding a design, and then because I was hasty and I was trying to go fast, I end up having to recut the whole thing because I pulled up a part that was supposed to stay. So that's why I like to go nice and slow, because it's a real bummer to waste all that HTV. Okay. So, just looking to see what else I can get rid of. I think that's supposed to go, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. So some of that just came off really easy. You know what I might do, you guys? I might do exactly what I suggested you do and pull the design back up, because I'll show you from the front. The dad design is like kind of is like sliced out of these checker designs. So if I pull up one square that's the wrong one, it's gonna mess up the whole thing, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go back to my computer. I know you guys can't see that, but in fact I can show you. What are you guys saying? Oh, Roseanne, I'm so sorry that you're not able to celebrate Father's Day this year with your husband. Oh, well, I'll be thinking of you guys and praying for you. I know, Tammy. I hear you on the priciness of the laser. For me, what I struggle with is sorry, guys. My toddler's trying to break into our live. For me, it's more of the investment of time. Like, of course, it is pricey as well. But that part, because I have a business, that's not too hard to recover. But it's more about the investment of time to learn a brand new whole system and like whole new machine. I only work part-time at this point, so I don't know that I have time to invest to actually learning a whole new machine. And I know a lot of you don't tend to use a laser either because many of you are hobbyists, so you can't, drop $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a laser. So that's why so far I have not taken the leap, but it won't say that I won't say that I never will, because that's definitely probably not the case. But at this point, I have not, because I'm just not really in a season of life where that makes any sense. Yeah, Roseanne, I'll certainly be praying for you guys, because I can only imagine that that's so hard. So I'm going to go back to the camera so you guys can continue to see me to weed, but I'm going to keep this up on my computer screen just so that I can look at the design and kind of know what needs to go and what needs to stay. So, oh, this is kind of interesting. So actually, sorry guys, let me take you back there real quick because I want to show you something. So what's interesting is inside the D for dad, there's like the squares are inside the letter, but the A and the D and like the tail of the D don't have any squares in them. So I'm glad that I pulled this up because I think that would be really confusing. So yeah, that's why it's helpful to be able to see the design if you're ever unsure. And also remember that we are weeding from the back side. So whenever we need to see what it actually looks like, we can flip it back over to the front, and that's going to show us what the design actually looks like. So the next most obvious part is getting out like the centers of the letters, such as like the little piece here in the middle. Like this. I'm not sure about that D yet, so I'm going to go back to it. But I'll just pull out the parts that I know for sure need to go. That. Okay, so here's kind of a little piece that's coming up. I can see it needs to go. So even just following that makes that a little bit easier. We'll flip it over again to double check. And then we can start to see like around the back side of the design, some of these squares need to go, or no, they don't. That does not, because we're going every other. So that's why checker designs can be a little tricky. They can definitely be a little tricky here. Okay, so that cut right there. I'm gonna keep my finger on it. Then we can pull some away. And continue kind of going with that same, like following the same path. And then let's see. Okay, so this square right here needs to go. And it looks like this square, it's right in the middle, messing up the pattern. That needs to go. And so it kind of looks like the last part that we need to fix or finish is the main part inside the D. So this big square in the middle is going to stay, and I can do this. The squares above and below need to go. We're gonna hope that I did that right, guys. Always makes me sweat. I'm like, oh no, did I just mess up the whole thing? All right, let's take a look from the front. Okay. So I think we're looking pretty good. That might be it. What I like to do is just hold it up to the light and look for any cuts that I missed or anything like that before I apply it to my shirt. Hope I can see. I think I missed a little part of the offset here. There we go. We kind of look for anything that's out of place. I think overall, that looks pretty good. There's nothing to pull out right here in the design. So yeah, I think we got it. So that wasn't the easiest one to weed for a beginner project, but if you guys are anything like me, I don't always start with the easiest option, especially as a beginner. I'm always excited to make the designs I like, not necessarily the easiest ones, you know? Okay, so the weeding part is done. I'm gonna throw my scraps away. And now it's time to preheat my Cricut Easy Press. So I'm gonna pull that down here and set it to the settings that are on the Cutter settings document. So for Starcraft Softflex HTV, it's gonna be 285 degrees. I'm set to 305. So I'm gonna press the temperature button and then I'm able to adjust it down to 285. And then for time, we'll do 8 to 10 seconds. So I'll adjust it down to 10 and then it'll get on its way. So it's usually pretty quick to preheat, but a really, really important key with using your Cricut Easy Press is the Easy Press mat. I did not give the Easy Press mat enough credit when I first started using it. But the reason that it's really super important that you use this is because this is what gives the pressure that a traditional heat press also would. So with a traditional heat press, you have your bottom platen and then you have your upper platen, okay? If you're picturing this like a side view, this is the bottom and this is the top, and then you press it down and you're able to control the pressure between both platens. When you think of an Easy Press style heat press, it's only the top. There is no bottom. And so you have to make sure that you supply the pressure from the top, but also that your surface is raised up nice and high so that you can get good contact with your shirt. And that's where the Easy Press mat comes in. So it is really, really important that you get an Easy Press mat and you use it with your projects. Gail says, I usually put the vinyl on the warm shirt and it peels easier. Yeah, that's a good idea. So I am going to lay out my t-shirt here, and I'm not going to do anything just yet, but since this has been folded up for a while, I've got some lines. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Easy Press while it's warming to just work out some of those wrinkles and preheat the shirt. Cricut is really big about preheating. I don't usually preheat my materials, but it is nice to not have to worry about like a wrinkly surface. So I'm not opposed to it. I just usually don't think to do it. There we go. All right. So I'm going to set this aside and start working on the placement. And probably what I will do is I'm gonna set it here and then I'll end up picking it up and looking at it. So it might be difficult for you guys to see that process, but it's already preheated. The Cricut Easy Press is usually pretty fast. So as a rule of thumb, there's a couple things I like to do to make lining up HTV designs in my t-shirt easier. And the first one of those is taking the design, and I like to fold the non-sticky sides together like this and line up these edges, which is super easy to do on this checker design. And then I like to press a crease down the middle. And that is going to help me determine where the middle is. That way I don't get thrown off by, you know, sometimes designs like this that have like a big tail can kind of throw you off where the middle actually is. Then as far as from the collar, kind of the rule of thumb with a regular collar like this, not a V-neck, that's a little different. With a regular collar is you want your design to be about 3 inches down below the collar. And so I like to use kind of like my like my scout salute, my 3 fingers underneath the collar to kind of approximate that. And then I can place it something like this. And because that HTV carrier sheet is nice and sticky, I'll go ahead and stick it to the shirt. And then what I'll do, I'll put you guys back in the front view, is I like to pick the shirt up and I like to look at it like kind of from far away, and that helps me to eyeball whether or not I place it correctly. Especially in a design like this where it's kind of more of a defined rectangle with the checkers, you definitely don't want a crooked one, of course, if you can help it. So I'm gonna hold it up. I don't know how well you guys can see it because I'm in the way. And actually it does look a little crooked to me, I think. I think the right side is a little bit high. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna adjust it just a little bit. And I just pushed it down just a little bit on that side, but I think that looks a lot better. What do you guys think? Any issues? I know it's hard to see because I'm like right in your way, but I think that looks pretty good. The other thing, I do have this one tool that I do use for this a lot. Hold on just a second. Let me grab it. If I can find it, hopefully I can. I have so many t-shirt blanks packed in there. Hard to find. Oh, here we go. So I'll take you back overhead and show this to you. So I have this HTV or t-shirt guide is a better way to say that, the t-shirt guide. And basically it's just like this little plastic piece that you can stick underneath the collar of your shirt, and it can kind of give you an approximate center, and it's going to automatically place your design 3 inches down if you start it below here. So according to this, our design's a little high and the center is definitely not where it needs to be. So here's what I'm going to do though. I am going to take out the Easy Press mat for now because I don't want that to throw off centering our design. And we'll go ahead and reset our design using t-shirt guides. Of course, this isn't 100% accurate. You always want to eyeball it, but I like to center it underneath the collar. And generally when I do that, I have found that this serves me very, very well. So I've got this here. Then we already created that center crease, right, in our design. So I'm going to put that center crease right underneath that. And I actually might place the design a little less than 3 inches from the start, just because I think that's a little bit low for this design. And now we can eyeball after having used our t-shirt guide. And I bet that will make all the difference. All right. So now, double check. And I think that looks great. What do you guys think? Think it looks okay? I always like to eyeball, especially from like a far back. You can always tell. Let me know if anyone has any objections or if it's all good. And if you say it's all good, I'll believe you, and then we'll press this thing. Let me know what you think. And sometimes I don't hold it straight. So sometimes what I do actually is I'll put a hanger on it and hang it on one of my cabinets and then step back, because if I don't hold it up correctly, you might think it's crooked and it might just be the way I'm holding it. You know what I mean? So let me know. You guys think it looks good? I think it looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and start setting it up. You let me know if you have some major opposition to it, but I think it's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to take you back overhead, and yeah, you definitely like the darker color better. I do too. I'm really glad that we went with this one. So what I'm going to do, because I have a 9x9 easy press and I have a 10-inch wide design, is I'm going to end up pressing this in 2 parts. So I'm going to press one half kind of, and then the other half. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're not going to be able to press the whole thing at once because my easy press is smaller than my design. So I don't know how well you guys can see that, but I have my T-shirt on top of my easy press mat, and then I can't find my Teflon sheet. I often put Teflon over top of this, so instead I'm going to use parchment paper over top. And the reason I like to use parchment paper is just because it's something I always do, just in case. I want to make sure that I don't get any HTV on the bottom of my easy press. Because if you've ever cleaned HTV off of an easy press or any kind of heat press, you know it is a pain in the butt. So I always like to put a piece of parchment paper down in the event that we end up removing the carrier sheet. We don't end up pressing HTV directly on the bottom of the easy press. So I'm going to go ahead and do the full 10 seconds on this side, and then we'll shift it over and do 10 seconds on the other side. So I'm going to place the easy press on top of the easy press mat, push down and press the Cricut button, and that's going to start our countdown. It did shift a little bit. That is a little tricky about using parchment paper. But usually with the sticky carrier sheet, that's usually enough to keep it in place that you don't really have to worry about shifting it a whole lot. So now I'm pulling the easy press to the other side, and a lot of this is going to overlap, and that's okay. Not a huge deal. Okay. I'm going to give it another second to cool because I did just press the majority of this design. And then we'll do the other side. I have found that you really have to significantly overheat HTV in order to cause a lot of problems. And more heat is not always necessarily better. I'm a big advocate of just using the correct settings, not necessarily of turning the heat up to 1,000,000 and just going with it. I would just strive to use the manufacturer recommended settings, and you'll usually see success with that. So now we're going to press this left side. I'm going to go ahead and put some parchment paper again over top of our design here. Put it here, press down, and press the Cricut button. And then we'll let it cool for a moment. We don't have to. We could peel it right away, but there's no need to burn our fingertips. So we'll let it cool here for just a moment, and then we'll peel off the carrier sheet and hope that we place this on straight. So something that you can do to cool things down a little bit is you could like put something that's like glass or ceramic, like a mug over top, and kind of roll it over top. But this HTV can definitely be peeled warm. And the peel that they're talking about, by the way, that was part of the document, is they're talking about peeling the carrier sheet here. So we'll go ahead and peel this away. So there is a little bit of resistance just because this is a nice and sticky carrier sheet. But if you ran into something where you were starting to pull the HTV up with your carrier sheet, then you can always do another quick press of like another 5 seconds, and that will take care of that problem. Super easy to fix. And then you are finished. So HTV, I almost was tempted to call this an old school HTV tutorial, because at this point, now that we have sublimation and DTF and all those other things, HTV does feel a little old school. But if you're a beginner, you probably don't feel that way. But I didn't want to make anyone feel like they were outdated or anything like that. But it's sometimes fun to just do an old school HTV design, because I haven't done something like that in a while. We always are doing something fancy with sublimation and DTF, and those things are great too. Definitely nothing wrong with that. But it's just kind of nice to go back to my roots, to what I did for years and years and years before we had any of the rest of these other tools or methods or anything like that. So I'll send you back to the front camera and show you what it looks like from far away. Hopefully we nailed the placement, right? And we got it nice and straight. But I think this t-shirt turned out awesome. And if you're a beginner, so it's already 4:18. I feel like we've been here a while. If you're a beginner, I do recommend starting with one single color design if you can help it. I know it's really tempting to take the new skill that you've learned and try and do, the most complex, most beautiful design you've ever seen. But I do recommend, if you can, going slow and starting with, more simple one color type designs, and get comfortable with those. And then you can start moving to multicolor designs and, doing different things like that. I do recommend kind of going, almost thinking of it like a set of stairs, where you're doing the minimum and then getting comfortable, and then you take the next step, then get comfortable with that, and then you take the next step. Because I know that's not my natural tendency, and it's probably not yours either. But I think it saves so much frustration if you're able to do things that way and go nice and super slow. So that's my encouragement to you if you are a beginner. And also, I didn't think to talk about this, but I probably should. If you are a super beginner, if you're brand new to Cricut and you want to learn a little bit of everything that your Cricut machine can do, if you want to help your Cricut reach its full potential, and you want to use vinyl, heat transfer vinyl, paper and cardstock, and all the materials, that I do have a self-paced online course called Cricut Chemistry, and that takes you through all the basics of Cricut Design Space. There's tons of modules, or tons of lessons, I should say, under the Cricut Design Space module. So no matter how many updates Cricut does, you'll understand how to use Cricut Design Space, and those updates will not scare you. Then I take you through all of the vinyl basics, all of the heat transfer vinyl basics, and all of the cardstock basics that it comes to with using your Cricut. And that's exactly how the course is built, where we start with the most basic overview, and then we build one skill at a time, so that by the time you're done, you will go from a beginner Cricut crafter who might be nervous to take your Cricut out of the box, all the way to a super confident Cricut crafter that can make anything that you can picture. So if that's something you're interested in, if you think that would benefit you, go and check out my Cricut Chemistry course over on DIYAlex.com. I just put my website there on the screen. You can find it under the course section, more about Cricut Chemistry, because it's kind of a fun old school tutorial, and it reminded me that I have tons of education for you in that course. Not only do you get the videos with that, there are over 35 video lessons. You also get over a 100-page textbook, we called it, since we went with kind of a school theme, that takes you through all of the tutorials in like pictures and text. So that way, if you don't want to watch a whole video, but you want a printed guide of how to build those skills, that is also included in the course. You get lifetime access. So once you pay for it, you never have to buy anything again. Even though I actually have some updates for the course, I'm going to be adding some additional lessons. You never have to pay for anything else for the Cricut Chemistry course once you buy it for the first time. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, or you're welcome to shoot me an email or anything like that. But like I said, you can find more information over on DIYAlex.com. But outside of Cricut Chemistry, you guys, it's so good to be back. I took a couple weeks off after getting started because we were on vacation, and then last week I was sick. And luckily, my mom was sweet enough to come and watch Carter today, even though he is not feeling the best. I really wanted to make sure that we did this tutorial in time for Father's Day and in time for you guys to potentially make a super reasonably priced craft for your dad, if you are still in the market for doing that. I can't wait to share with you what I'm doing for Father's Day this year. I really want to tell you, but I can't say too much because you guys probably don't know this about me, but I am infamous for telling my husband what I'm going to get him for each holiday. I end up just like tumbling it out or just like saying it outright when I don't even think about it. So I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I think it's a pretty cool gift and I hope they really like it. Because it's not just for my husband. Okay, see, I can't say too much because I'm just going to tell you all the things. So I'll post it in the Facebook group after Father's Day, after I've given the gifts. And if you're not in our Facebook group, please join it. It's in the description of this video. It's the All the Things Cricut and Crafty with DIY Alex. That's kind of my general Facebook group. And I do also have a DIY wedding Facebook group too. If you're interested in that, or you know someone getting married, you might be interested in a big wedding group of Cricut crafters. So anyway, sorry guys, I'm rambling at this point. Like I told you, a little sleep deprived. Having a sick kid is definitely not for the faint of heart. But it's been really fun to be back with you guys. I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us, Melissa, and everyone else who was here. It was so good to be back with you. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to DIY Alex because my plan is to be live pretty much every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Here on YouTube, but also, I know I've had about 20 but alsos. The best way that I'm going to keep in touch with you guys is email. It's easiest for me to be able to communicate with everyone because on social media, you can't always control what posts you see and what posts you don't. So also in the description of this video is the form to sign up for my email list. And if you want to get notified about these tutorials, I highly recommend you join that because my goal is to send you a reminder email every Thursday morning with the link to the live, unless things are unusual. But like, for example, last week I ended up having to reschedule for this week, and I was able to tell you that much easier through email than I am through, social media and all that kind of stuff. So in order to join kind of the DIY Alex Crafty fam, you can join the Facebook group, you can join the email list, you can subscribe here on YouTube, and hopefully through one of those channels, you'll find out all the things that I have to say, all the things that I have to share. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday.